evening. The Supreme Court of India, viewers, on September 28th this year, ruled in favor of opening up the doors of Sabarimala temple for everyone, all devotees, women of all age group. Except Justice Malhotra, all other judges on the bench, that's 4 other judges, were unanimous in their ruling. And this is what the Supreme Court told us less than 2 weeks ago. Relationship with Creator should be untouched by barriers. That devotion cannot be subjected to gender discrimination. This is what the Supreme Court wrote in its verdict. That subversion of rights under physiological phenomena cannot be allowed, which means just because women are menstruating at that age, you cannot tell them to enter here or not to enter here. The practice to bar women is violative of their fundamental rights. But when it comes to religion, viewers, or even big cultural changes, the bigger battle really is about changing the mindset of the society, which may not necessarily happen overnight with a ruling by the top court. And so we see tonight protests in Kerala, in many other parts of our country. The protesters are demanding few basic things. Their first demand is that the Kerala government, mind you, should file a review petition, not just the temple board. They want the state to take a stand here. They want an ordinance to be brought in, maybe by the center or the state, to stop entry of women of that particular age group. They want to restore the centuries-old tradition of the temple. Protesters are saying that the Ayyappa Dharma must be protected at this point of time, and that women should not be allowed inside the temple premises. It's primarily why across the country in many parts, and definitely in Kerala, we are seeing protests. So tonight we ask, what should the state do? Find a way to keep Sabarimala doors locked, which are supposed to open on 17th, or follow the top court's order and implement the law of the land? That's the first debate tonight.
"48 hours before Sabarimala opens its doors to all women, protests against the move intensify."
धर्म को लेकर के इस तरह से किसी भी तरह से कोई विवाद खड़ा ना हो, इसलिए कोर्ट को भी इस पर ध्यान रखना चाहिए.
Ayyappan will come and he will come alive, and you got confidence, and he will come and bless all of us and he'll change the world.
Thousands of supporters took to streets in Thiruvananthapuram today.
The BJP and the Hindu organizations are demanding that the state government should formulate an ordinance at the earliest point, because it's just 48 hours left for the holy shrine of Sabarimala to be open for all the devotees.
Meanwhile, the Devaswam board has called for a meeting with the members of Pandalam royal family and others to discuss the way forward.
We have taken a decision to participate in the discussion, which is convened by the TDB tomorrow, simply because the issues are propping up day by day.
After pressure mounted, now Pandalam family also conducted a whole day's meeting, and they have decided to go ahead and participate in Travancore Devaswam's meeting tomorrow to to find out about a consensus with the Supreme Court's order or not.
As the protests escalate across the state, Mirror now asks, will the state ensure safe entry for all women in the temple? Let's debate.
Let's say good evening to our panelists. Deepa Rahul Ishwar, activist, joining us from Trivandrum. Prasant Unikrishnan of the Ayyappa Dharma Sena. Jaiman Andrews, he's a lawyer with the Supreme Court. Brinda Adige, a social activist, and is also with us this evening. And I'm going to start with the lawyer in the house. Mr. Jaiman Andrews, good evening to you. What is your view? What should the state do? We've got about 36 hours to go, less than 48 actually, for the temple to open its doors to all women. Should the state implement what Supreme Court has set, or figure out another way of barring the entry?
I think that question is to me. Hello?
Yes, it is. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Is it audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, first of all, I would like to say the anyway, rightly or wrongly, Supreme Court, the apex of court of the country, has ruled that 3B of the that a particular act is has to go. It is against fundamental rights which is embodied in the Constitution of India. So it violates several constitutional rights. You can agree, you can disagree, but now that is the law of land. Now I have my own reservation on. As I said, I have my own reservation on many of the judgments. I have a 24 years of practice as a lawyer. I differ in many of the judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court, Honorable High Court, or some cases where I appear. I have my own opposition, but that does not mean that I can flout that in the public. So, even if it is not in your favor, you have to accept that. That is the fundamental. All the slogans now raised by the public who are opposing it, that all the points has been considered. This matter has been going on in the Honorable Supreme Court of India for past 12 years. I heard almost all arguments before the 3 judgments as well as in the Constitution Bench 5 judgments. Several senior most lawyers of this country has discussed all these points, argued, raised, everything was considered. Rightly or wrongly, by 4:1 majority, court accepted one view. Now we have to, the general public asked to accept. Now accept that view, and the government should implement that, whatever it may be.
Right.
It cannot, since being a sensitive issue, there cannot be any confrontation with anybody. That all we can understand. But you can't say that Supreme Court is wrong. Supreme Court may be wrong. You can criticize. You can. I think I am telling you everything
okay,
you can.
but you're
do.
saying once
But
the order verdict has been
there
given,
is no problem. But
that
you can't
must be
have a stand
that must be implemented and that must be respected. I get that point. I just want to highlight what's happened just in the last 1 week in the run-up to the event that we are looking forward to now. On October 6th, section of devotees held a march in Kottayam. On October 7th, section of devotees protested in Bengaluru. On October 7th, protests were held in Chennai. Again, they were protesting against women entry. They wanted it to continue the way it does right now. On October 8th, there were protests in Tipuram against the state stand that we are not going to file a review petition. People got upset that the state government wasn't supporting them. On October 10th, the Ayyappa Karma Samiti activists blocked NH47 in Kochi. On October 12th, the Pandalam royal family protested. On October 13th, Ayyappa followers marched in Coimbatore. There was also protest in Kochi. There was also protest in Mumbai. On October 14th, there were protests across Kochi and Chennai and in Tipuram, and that continued even today. This is what people are saying on the streets. But of course, there is another section that believes that entry must be for all, which is why this case reached the top court to begin with. Now, let me go across to Prashant Unikrishnan because he was shaking his head vehemently when Mr. Andrews was talking. Yes, Mr. Unikrishnan, what is your view? What should the state do?
Can I have 3 minutes, since there is only 30 minutes for this program, let me take 5 minutes of this.
No, 5 minutes is a bit much.
Point is,
if you can try and keep your answer concise, others will get a chance. Go ahead, please. 5 minutes is a bit much, though. I am warning you.
Okay, I'll take only 5 points. I will take only 5 minutes of 5 points. Point number 1. As concerned about the state of Kerala state is a 100% literacy state. Point number 1. And it is the one state which has got number of NRIs, more NRIs. Once you understand one point, it is the kind of people who are responding is not in Kerala alone. The people from Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and from people across UAE, US, UK, everybody is retaliating and reacting about Sabarimala. It is not about Hindus alone. Christians are there. Muslims are also there retaliating about this Sabarimala case. Number 3, if you understand the CPM policy, the CPM government who are ruling this policy, they are not thinking, understand, the population of Kerala is 3.69 crores. Of that, 54.2 are only Hindus. The majority of Hindus are only 54.2. and 1 crore of Muslims are 27.1 percentage. If you take the average of Indian population, if you understand the Kerala population average, 18.7 percentage of Christians are there in Kerala, 27.1 percentage of Muslims are in Kerala, and 54.2 percentage of Hindus are there in Kerala. What CPM is trying to do is, they are trying to take the vote bank of Muslims and Christians, and they are trying to divide the Hindus. And
What does that
bifurcating
have?
the
I
Hindu
don't
vote
care about the
population.
politics. I don't
This
care
is what
about
they are
the
doing, and
politics
they are
of CPIM.
Finish, sir.
I'm asking you whether
No,
the
no,
state
please.
government should
No, no, no,
implement
no,
the
I'm coming
Supreme
to-
Court's
I asked
verdict.
for 5 minutes.
The Supreme Court's verdict, it's the highest court of our country.
Yes,
They have
I
ruled on the
accept,
basis of our
I do,
constitution.
We do. Let me tell you.
So let's not get
the-
into politics and religion here, please. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we as per the Dharma Sena, we do oblige, we do accept the verdict of Supreme Court, but we are against the affidavit given by the CPM government because their eye towards the next movement is their eye towards Sri Padmanabha Swami
Now,
temples.
okay, when did the government,
This is
when
the
did the
first
state
step of
government,
Sabarimala,
now listen to
and
me,
their final
now
eye is
listen to me,
towards-
now listen to me, Mr. Unnikrishnan, are you aware and will you
Yeah.
tell my viewers, when did the state government submit its
Yes.
stand? Was it now? Was it last month? When did they make their stand clear?
It was submitted by V.S. Achyutanand, the former chief minister.
Yes.
It was submitted by
And
the former
before,
chief minister
in the
V.S.
previous
Achyutanandan.
term,
Right.
when this party was in power, what was their stand? So for over 10 years now, this party has had the same stand when it comes to Sabarimala. Now, I don't want to go into this now because if you had problems with this stand, you should have protested about it earlier. That part is done. The submission has been made in court. The court has considered it and a ruling has been given. Brinda DK, Priya, Deepa, I'll come to you in just a bit, but Brinda DK first. Brinda DK, sure, sentiments must be respected. If there is one set that wants to enter the temple, there may be one set that doesn't want people to enter, and they have the right to protest. But for any big cultural change, a religious change, and a change in the practice, does the state have to have a firmer stand? When the Supreme Court has ruled something, isn't it the state's duty to implement it?
You're asking me?
No, my question is to Brinda DK.
Absolutely right. The state has the primary responsibility and the primary duty to uphold the Supreme Court's judgment and verdict. And what the Supreme Court has said is given the choice to decide for women whether they want to enter the temple or not, when they want to enter the temple. It has not forced anybody. If there are women who want to wait, no Supreme Court verdict, nobody is saying that you have to go in. This free will, this choice, this decision is left up to the women to make, and they can go inside. How is it that a group of people decide that they are real devotees and the others are not real devotees, and so impose their convictions on the people who are wanting to enter and go inside and pray? The Supreme Court has just given us that choice. So you are telling the Supreme Court should not give us this choice. The Supreme Court has no right to allow us this choice. And this is my fundamental right. If you don't want to go,
Deepa, do you want to
nobody is
respond
forcing
to that?
But how do you force yourself
How
on
do you
others?
choose over one devotee's choice versus the other?
Give me a chance.
Yes,
Can
go
I
ahead,
come
please.
in? No, basically, I would just like to touch upon the fact that it's quite surprising and interesting to note that when it comes to Sabarimala, the state government is very keen to implement the Supreme Court's verdict very clearly. And when it comes to certain other cases, they are a little slow on implementing the verdict. I wouldn't want to get into the details of which are those cases, but then it is open to everybody. And it's for you to do a research and find out. So it's not that the state government is always a very ardent follower of what the Supreme Court says, and they're very much keen to apply the verdict. So you should also understand that with all all due respect to state government, we admire Shri Pinarayi Vijayan. I really like the person. He's a sensible minister that we have. But having said all of that, you know, we look up to the state government to support us. Why is the government there? It's because of our elections. It's because of our votes. It is that ink mark on our finger that has brought them all there, right? So at the end of the day, when we have an issue and when they look around, they see half of Kerala protesting against a verdict. It's not sensible for the state government probably to say that no, the verdict has been passed. It is our duty to implement it. So I really feel, with all due respect, that state government could have probably supported the democracy more rather than sticking on to what the verdict has done and implementing it immediately within 2 weeks of time. So I think they could have asked for a little bit of more of time. But then anyway, I'm not talking about the political part of it. But then the other part of it, what Brinda ma'am said, is very clearly what I can counter. Now, it's not, you know, you're saying that ladies can wait if they want to wait. Brinda ji, we are not waiting because we want to wait. We are waiting because we know why we should wait. Why we should wait is because the nature of the DT there chooses to be celibate, and it is his choice, H in capital, his choice, that we should wait until we are 50. So we are not waiting because it is a rule of the land, so let us wait, or we don't have a choice, we are waiting. No, we are waiting because it's a belief that the temple should not allow young women between the age group of 10 and 50. So that is where we have a problem with the choice given by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has now given a choice to young women to enter, and if young women will exercise that choice, then it is actually creating a problem with our basic belief itself. So it's not that, why is the Supreme Court giving that choice? No. If somebody chooses to exercise that choice, our very foundation or the belief of the temple, the glory of the temple, and why Sabarimala is different from the other Lord Ayyappa temples, is itself being destroyed there. So that is not an easy thing to take, and that's not an easy thing for us to digest. It's not easy for us. I'm sure the Honorable Supreme Court would also have expected that there will be protests around, though not to this magnitude.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone would have expected that.
So that's fine.
All of us are not going to just sit back and look at it that, okay, it is a verdict, and now tomorrow onwards, let young women
Which
enter.
is fine. So you can express your dissatisfaction.
Why? Did you ask me why?
You can express your dissatisfaction with the way what Supreme Court has ruled, and you're not happy with it. But the Supreme Court has heard everybody out. This is not a case where they took an overnight decision. This battle has gone on for years together. The decision has been made. A decision was made at one point of time to do away with certain practices, including sati. A decision was made at one point of time to do away with instant triple talaq, because it didn't work for people at that point of time. Now, if you want to sit and have a debate of religion versus constitution, it is always about religion and practices. It is always about tradition and religious practices versus the constitution, and that battle can go on forever.
It's very easy to throw mud into the...
Why don't we sit and wait and see whether women want to go and express their devotion? If everybody believes... Let me finish my point, please. Deepa, I heard you out. My point is this. Why don't we sit and wait and see if devotees of Lord Ayyappa want to go to that temple? Who are you and me to stop them? That's all. If legally they've been given permission, allow the devotees to decide.
So we are going to sit back.
How is your devotion higher than anybody else's who's ready to do 41 days of fasting and penance to go and then pray to Lord Ayyappa in that temple?
Let me ask you, if I can.
Let Deepa answer that, then Mr. Unnikrishnan, you can come.
It's not about his choice. It's not about your choice. It is the choice of the DT.
How do you know that?
It's not my right to equality. It's a right of the DT that needs to be protected.
How do you know that?
I call myself a devotee.
Because for generations you've been told to believe that.
Who interpreted that choice of the deity?
Who? Because for generations everybody has been told to believe that is the choice of the deity.
The deity did not say do not.
The day in our country we start questioning the law of the land, then I don't know what democracy we are going to talk about anymore. Yes, Mr. Unnikrishnan.
Is a man.
No, Tantri is the person who, the Tantri is the father of the deity is the, see, let me ask you a simple question then. See, what if tomorrow the revenants should not be poured onto the Ganges? Tomorrow if somebody goes to Supreme Court and tells that no more revenants of your forefathers to be poured into the Ganges, and somebody comes with the rule, what will happen? What will happen? The revenants of your forefathers should not be put into the Ganges. If somebody comes to the rule, what will happen in North India? You tell
Go
me.
and ask the Supreme Court that they gave the
Any answer
ruling.
for that?
Go and ask the Supreme Court that they gave the ruling. If you have so many problems with what the Supreme Court has decided, go and ask,
Give an
appeal in
answer
the
for that,
Supreme
madam.
Court. Why are you insisting that the state government take a stand? Please go to the Supreme Court. Bring the
Some
Adige.
Akbar or some Khan will say that pollution is happening in the...
Hello?
Madam, shall I complete?
See,
Madam, I will ask you a question to you.
I gave you the answer. Go and ask the Supreme Court. I am only saying this is the law of the land now. This is the law of the land. Let people decide for themselves. The Supreme Court has given a ruling.
you don't have an
Who are
answer
you
for
to
that.
decide for anybody else?
Faiths and
Religious
beliefs.
faiths and
Supreme
faiths.
Court's decision is
No.
different from your and my decision. I am not a Supreme Court judge or the Constitution bench. Neither are you. Yes, Brinda Adige, please.
Now you are answerless.
How
Now
am I?
this is the same thing
Brinda
happening in
Adige, please.
Kerala.
Hello?
Now I am asking you a simple question. Now I am asking you. If Supreme Court is
Yeah, what we
deciding
need to-
everything like this,
Sir,
somebody gives now.
if the
tomorrow,
Supreme Court says
Kriti Desai
that
is
you
telling
cannot
that
put the
he's giving a
ashes
case,
in
he
the
wants to be
Ganga
Tandri of Sabarimala.
because the Ganga
Now
is getting
tomorrow Kriti
polluted
Desai
or
is
whatever
telling
may
that
be the
he
other
wants to
reasons,
become the Tandri
then
of
everybody
Sabarimala.
has to
Will
follow
you
So,
the
only
Supreme
question, you
Court
have to
verdict.
hear the other person out if you asked a question
There is
now.
a belief and there is a practice. And if the practice is discriminatory and if the practice is destroying something and if the practice is not upholding the constitutional guarantees, then well, you have to follow what the Supreme Court has said. How will you now sit here and say that this is my belief and I impose this belief on you that you cannot go inside if you are a woman between 10 and 50?
Yes, absolutely. Jaiman Andrews wanted to come in. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Andrews.
First place.
My friend, I don't
Very
know understand why
dangerous
he is
positions
shouting
to
all
take, ma'am.
this way.
I don't know where
I'm
we're
just
leading
saying
our next
that if
generation
some-
in. Where
are our
something-
values? Where are our
See,
values?
You don't decide everybody's values.
Unfortunately, that is the law of the land. If
Yes, Mr.
Hello?
Andrews, go ahead, please. We can hear you now.
see, unfortunately, what Supreme Court saying is the law of the land in an issue. You see, here the problem. Hello. The problem is that particular section of an act is struck down in the by this constitutional bench of the Supreme Court after hearing all the parties. My friend was very much telling about only the CPM government's affidavit. You see, almost 24 respondents were heard. 2 amicus curiae were appointed and petitioners were heard. Altogether 27 organizations, individuals, and even amicus curiae, 2 amicus curiae, that is unusual thing in Supreme Court. 2 separate amicus curiae were heard. All these points were taken. Naishtika Pemrajariam, all these points which my friend was now raising, everything was considered in detail. Unfortunately, this is the verdict. No, once a verdict is coming, then you can't say RSS is above Supreme Court or Ayyappa Seva Sangam is above Supreme Court, and we are all believers. So that has to be followed. That is so. I will just tell you one example. Hello.
Yes, go
One
ahead.
example. Muttalaq is banned now. Triple talaq is banned. Tomorrow a section of people, Muslim ladies said, if you are doing mutlaq also upon us, we are acceptable. That is acceptable to that. Whether you can permit that.
No, Mr. Andrews, at the end of the day, it is about the constitutional values. I think we all have to come to a point where we begin to agree that the Constitution is supreme in this country. If we don't find that common ground, then the arguments about religion and practices that get defined and decided by men.
Unfortunately, the court has travelled a lot.
Yes, Deepa, what are you saying? Let's hear out Deepa Ishwar, please.
Let's close down all mosques.
Religious supremacy has gone.
Ma'am, there needs to be a balance.
Unfortunately,
There
that
needs
is
to
the
be a
law of the
balance.
country.
No. I think you're just taking a very extreme stand here.
So,
It's not just the Constitution,
Madam,
but
all
there needs
balance
to be a
has to be
balance
before
between
the-
the Constitution and the beliefs. If you're saying that the Constitution is supreme, then
Yes,
let's
it
just
is.
close down all worship places and
Why?
let's just pray to the Constitution.
Follow as per the
it's
law.
not that way. It needs to be a balance. You need to
Follow
say
as
if
per the
the
law.
articles of the Constitution will hurt the beliefs of the masses, then you'll have to go with the masses. It's not that specifically
No,
in
ma'am.
Hinduism,
You are highly mistaken how it works in a democracy where India, the kind of constitution that we have, if it was to be everything that the majority decides, then who would watch out for the minority? Then who would stand up for the minority? It is because our constitution gives us that equality that everybody has a say in this country. The law of the land is the supreme and that is what must be followed. Why is your definition of a religious practice more important and bigger than my definition of a religious practice?
Tanviji, just one question. Tanviji, just one question which I'm sure will leave you answerless. If Supreme Court is always the final verdict, what happened to Jallikattu? I think it's history. I don't have to remind you of what happened to Jallikattu. Jallikattu is still here. Jallikattu is still being celebrated by our Tamil brothers and sisters, and we're extremely proud of that community because they stood together for what they strongly believed in. The Supreme Court still had a verdict there which was final, and there was a Brinda Adige, there was an Andrew, there was people like you who said that.
So you are advocating that every time Supreme Court gives a ruling that you don't like or any of your peers don't like, the government should come in and overrule a Supreme Court ruling. Why have the Supreme Court to begin with? Let's just have a chaos in our country where anybody can overrule the Supreme Court, come out with their own set of ordinances to please the majority and win the elections. As simple as that. Completely running out of time. I'm quickly going to go across to our viewer Anand calling us from Pune, who has a legitimate question to ask. Good evening, Anand. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Tanvi. My question is to Deepa.
Yes.
Yeah, Deepa, my question is, if at all there is any law and order situation which might arise because of the protests which might happen on the 17th of this month, who will take the responsibility for that? If any injury to any of the devotees who want to go and worship in Lord Ayappa's temple, if something happens to them, who will be held responsible? Who will take the responsibility? Ayyappa Sena, are you willing to take the responsibility?
Well, Anand, thank you for calling. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but I can tell you this much, Anand. Everybody has a right to protest in his country. Deepa and any other devotee also have that right. It is the responsibility of the state to ensure that law and order is maintained. Now, until and unless the Supreme Court verdict is overruled, it is the responsibility of the state government to ensure that on 17th of this month, when the doors of Sabarimala are open, whoever wants to go inside and pray to Lord Ayappa is allowed to do so and safety is provided to them. It is the responsibility of the state government to ensure that no untoward incident takes place anywhere. They better be prepared. Supreme Court verdict came a long time ago. They've had all this time. They've seen how people have been protesting. Now, if they really intend to ensure that right of women are also given to them when it comes to praying at Sabarimala, then they better ensure that there is enough security given. For anybody else who disagrees with the Supreme Court verdict, is free to go to the Supreme Court and file a review petition. Let the courts decide. Let the courts hear you out. All we are saying tonight is, when there is a law of land in the place, that is what reigns supreme in our country. Otherwise, where do you draw the line? Which religious practice over which one? Which casteist practice over which one? Who gets to decide whether you can go here or there if you start bringing in religion everywhere? Which is why there is a constitution given that guarantees equal rights to everybody. Let's start implementing that. Thank you for joining us on this first debate. And we move on to the second debate on the last word tonight. Thousands of women viewers in our country are disappointed tonight, and I am one of them. As the Me Too revolution picks up pace, there is some disappointment, and I will tell you why. Not just because over a dozen women have accused a central minister of sexual harassment when he was a top editor and they were young journalists. Not just because MJ Akbar has decided to go after his accusers, legally sending each one of them a notice, naming 97 lawyers. In that legal notice, these lawyers who work for Rajan Karanjawala's firm have been named. I'm not just disappointed because of that. He's a politician, MJ Akbar is a minister, so crying political conspiracy is but natural for him to do. That's his right to send a legal notice if he feels that he has been defamed wrongly. But I am disappointed tonight, and thousands of women like me are disappointed tonight because nobody else from the government that claims to stand for women, by the way, has spoken up since the story came out. And that isn't okay. That he can't be a minister as we look into these allegations. That's all the government has to say. They don't have to pick sides. They don't have to pronounce anybody guilty or not. Take a stand. We speak tonight not on the merits of each of those cases, of each of those women who've come out and spoken up against him. But we speak tonight about what do women who have spoken out against their harassers expect from the government, from the society, and from the country. And so tonight I have Simran Kaur Suri, an actor who has spoken out against Sajid Khan, and Kanika Gehlot, journalist and author, who's one of the accusers of MJ Akbar. And I'm going to go across to Kanika first. Kanika, much has been said in the past several days, back and forth between now, I think about 15 women who've spoken out against MJ Akbar. And then his statement, I understand now it's not just Priya Ramani, others are in process of getting legal notices. Yes, in fact, there has been another one. And I actually just want to let our viewers also know that Swati Gautam has now written a blog for the Quint where she has gone into details of what happened with her. And she speaks about the fact that I was called into his hotel room where when he opened the door, he was in his bathrobe. This is when she was a young budding journalist, wanted to call him for one of the events. And the details are on your screens right now. She goes on to say that he rolled a glass. In fact, I'm just going to read for you. The door opened and the bathrobe welcomed me. Mr. Bathrobe was on the bed while I was kind of squirming on a single sofa in the room, unable to exactly fathom what in hell was the matter with the world, which seemed perfectly normal just a short while ago. He verbally prompted me to make that drink. I silently and dumbly stared at the glass. Bending down, he rolled the glass in his hand towards me. And I kept looking at near my feet, petrified and totally lost. It goes on in further details, another one that has spoken out. Kanika, what is your own response to the way the minister has responded?
You see, if I say he should have, I don't want to say whether my story is right or wrong, and others, my colleagues that I've worked with, is right or wrong. I'm no one to say. I think you should judge, the country should judge. So I will not, sit here and insist one way or another. So I am no one to say,
yes,
that we were right and he is wrong. But yes, I was disappointed in him because I know the story, what it is, and.
Actually, let me rephrase that because I don't want you to now sit here. Actually, let me rephrase that, Kanika, because even I don't want you to sit here and justify. You have spoken out. You've done the brave part of it. I want to ask you, what do you think of the government's response, of the many ministers who've been asked about this issue and the way they have responded?
I think they have responded pathetically. As people who talk about Beti Bachao, they have, I think, been very strategic. They have realized that this is because, this is a small world. Everyone of the population is not in on this conversation of Me Too going on. So they have realized that, and it's, because the working women are so oppressed, there are so few of them. Still today, we know that, they're being kept out, they stay out for various reasons of oppression. And that's why there's so few of us. And that's why this conversation is resonating only amongst us, the working women of this country, which is not a huge proportion. So the thing is that they have taken advantage of that. And they've said that, okay, who cares about this bunch of women and what their truths are, and about the larger population that either doesn't know about all this, is not in on this conversation, or is actively fearing this, there's this backlash going on where men are saying, oh, we can sue, women can sue us, so let's not hire them. Oh, women, if we look at them, they can accuse us, so let's not talk to them. And so they've taken advantage of all these things, and they've actually gone out there and supported it. This is the message going out.
Yes.
We support you, you're right. This is the message going out.
Simran, do you agree that
So
this
I
kind of
think
a response
it's headache.
actually will enable more people and encourage more people to go after the women who've spoken up?
Which is, I think this is something I was scared of, but also I think I was like, when I was reading the comments and all the messages that I was getting, I found a lot of people like from the whole country who are also supporting it, and there were people who were saying that we're ready to even fund these girls so they can hire the best of the lawyers and fight against this. But the nation wants to help and they want this fight to go on. Even if the government is responding in the way they are responding now, I think the country is helping and they are supporting, I think, which is a great step.
What has been your own personal experience, Simran? Because the idea here is to put across voices like you. Since the time you have spoken out, even within your own industry, what has been the kind of response?
See, a lot of times I also got disheartened because people say bad things also. But when I am also getting messages from a lot of girls who are saying, Simran, thank you for speaking on our behalf, because we were never able to speak and maybe we'll never be able to speak. But we are so happy that you're talking about all these men and you're taking it ahead. There are a lot of, I think one of my acquaintance yesterday, she spoke up and I was so happy she did that. So I think in film industry, people are opening up and they are talking about it. And I think the federation is also supporting. Like today, we have sent a notice, the federation of directors, they have sent a notice to Sajid Khan, Show and Cause notice. So they are supporting us, and now I think it's giving me more courage to fight it.
Unfortunately, I think the government and the top ministers and leaders, the leadership of this country seem to be missing the bus. He is the Minister of State for External Affairs. MJ Akbar is a person who represents our country, who goes from one country to the other, representing us, facing sexual harassment allegations from at least now 15 different women, and these are just first-person account viewers. We're not even going into via third-person accounts that are being shared on social media right now. We're talking about women who've publicly come out with their own names and said, this is what happened to me. And look at the response of the government. Absolutely nothing. Let the minister go out there, fight these battles, issue legal notices, put the names of 97 lawyers on that legal notice and send it to these women. Let them deal with it. I'm going to read out what Swati Gautam has said. Small mercies from big gods are blessings we women must learn to count, instead of trying to put legs on lies in times of blind shamelessness. MJ did not do anything. In fact, he had a right to behave as he did. He could not have behaved differently since he must have been wired this way. Perhaps the ugliness is all in my mind alone. Perhaps I have not had the sense to decode his perfectly legal behavior that's suitably propped up by his perception of power and the mirage of never needing to force himself on a woman. And she goes on this way. Kanika, do you believe that maybe because some of these cases are old, some of these cases are simply first-person accounts inside a cabin, may not be so difficult to legally prove, that the minister and the government are taking such a hard stance?
I don't think it matters. Let the law decide. Whether it's. I think that Mr. Akbar must step aside, or the government should ask him to till a certain amount of time, till they're proved or not proved. Simple. Because there are too many allegations. There are too many allegations. It's just really simple. I mean, have you heard of 15 women from different time zones? From different of different ages, of different times of having worked with Akbar, saying pretty much the same sort of things, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Spontaneously and without checking with each other. Yes.
And some of them are
I mean,
in
it's varying
India.
in degrees, but you can see the patterns. You can see in the first 2 days when it came out, you could, yeah.
And some of them are in India, some of them are in UK, US,
It's
you know,
odd
in
that the
various
government
parts
has
of the
had no
world.
reaction.
And it seems like a political conspiracy. You say it is odd that the government
And the patterns
has had.
have been the same.
Yes, go on, please.
Sorry?
Go ahead, please. You were making a point. Go ahead, please.
I think I've lost the I've lost the audio.
Kanika, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, so my point is to everybody who is watching this show right now, Kanika, and hearing you out, the fact that legal notices are now being sent to the accusers is going to make a lot of women think again whether they want to come out and speak up. I don't want to name them because they've told us right now they don't want to come and speak right now. They're going to consult their legal advisors. But my fear is, what if those who are going to get more encouragement from this start rethinking on whether they want to speak out or not? What would your message be to them, Kanika Gehlot?
You know, my message is, I am the message. I'm sitting here and speaking, no? What can one do? If one has to speak, one has to speak. Right? If one has a story, go ahead and tell it. And let's see what will happen. Because what will happen is a never-ending game. And if you have, truly have a story, and you must speak your truth the way you know it against people around you, and keep doing it. Keep doing it and speaking to power, speaking to the people closest to you. Your family is also power sometimes. Your friends are also power.
Yes.
And, any act of injustice to you by power, speak up against it. And if you can't speak up against it, then remember it. And when you get the chance and when you feel ready, speak. Speak. What else? What else? This is the message of Me Too, and let us keep that alive.
Let's keep the message of Me Too alive. Simran Suri, before I wrap up, the same question to you. A lot of women tonight will be thinking, oh, I can't prove this now. It will be a difficult legal battle. Should I even speak up? What if tomorrow my accuser, like Nana Patekar or Alok Nath or my harasser, sends me a legal notice? Now, what would be your message to them? Because you have found the courage to speak up.
Definitely, I think when I heard about it, definitely I had another thought that, the women now are going to maybe take a step back. But also, I would say, like how Tanushri has demanded for a narco and a lie detector test, so we'll know eventually who is lying at what point. So the truth will come out. So I would just say to all these girls that please come out, tell your stories, and there are so many tests. We'll fight the battle. The truth will come out eventually. So please don't worry, don't get scared, and let's fight it together.
Let's fight it together. Thank you to both of these brave women for joining us on this edition of The Last Word, because this is the only message that I wanted to get across to all of those women who've battled perverts, sexual harassers and molesters at workplace. Please don't stop this movement now. Speak up. For every one person who may be there to make it problematic for you, you will find thousands of supporters who will stand by you, who will hear your story, who will believe in you. And that's what really matters right now. A few legal notices shouldn't be able to stop this movement. In fact, all of those who spoken up against this minister must now come together to fight this legally if that is the case. The fact of the matter is this, viewers, it isn't easy. It isn't easy to speak up. It isn't easy knowing that the one you are going to point fingers at is a top minister right now, was a top editor then, which is why you didn't say anything, is a top minister right now, and he may come with full guns blazing at you. And you may be shamed, you may be mocked, you may be doubted, you may be questioned. But today, I think times are different. Women have found the courage to speak up, to share what they've gone through. And I suggest that anybody who doubts the stories goes back and reads what they have to say. You will find a pattern like Kanika Galot said. You will find a pattern because that is how women are preyed upon. That is how women are targeted. Let this fight not end. Women need to stand together tonight. Thank you.